All right, everyone. Our next project is called the Stained Glass Symmetry Project. And this project, you can see that we are going to be using symmetry and creating a very geometric design. So here's an example that I did. Remember, in symmetry, we have lines of symmetry. So we have a vertical line of symmetry, and we have a horizontal line of symmetry in this. You can see that if I were to fold this in half, it would be the same on either side. If I were to fold it in half this way, it would also be the same on either side. That is also true from the corner to corner. If I were to fold this in half diagonally, it is the exact same. And I can do it along this line of symmetry as well. So looking at this, you can tell that I have 4 lines of symmetry. This is a step up from what you did in beginning art, where all we had was 1 line of symmetry. So today we're going to discuss how to create a project so that you can have multiple lines of symmetry and create a very interesting and unique design. During the coloring phase, you will also be using gradient values. This is to help give the idea of a stained glass look. Stained glass windows often have a dark color along the outside and then get lighter in the middle. This is why we call it the stained glass symmetry. It's kind of based off the idea of stained glass windows, and rose windows especially. They're the circle ones that are in the big churches. So let's look at a couple designs. Starting with some of these, I'm going to start off with this one right here. And let's zoom in so you can see it. Right here, looking at this design, this is much simpler than the design you saw before. It's still effective, but notice that there are only 2 lines of symmetry. If I fold it in half vertically, it is the same on the right and the left. If I fold it in half horizontally, you'll notice it's the same on the top and bottom. However, if I try to fold this in half diagonally, you will notice that it is not symmetrical. Notice that these lines right here are not repeated right here. Notice that these horizontal lines right here, when we fold this, these horizontal lines would then become vertical, and I do not have them there. So this only has 2 lines of symmetry. For your project that you do, you must at least have 2 lines of symmetry. If you want to get a 4 on your project, you need to have 4 lines of symmetry. So right now, from a design standpoint, the highest that this project could get is a 3 because of its 2 lines of symmetry. Let's look at a different design. Here's this one. Now, this design has 4 lines of symmetry: vertical, horizontal, diagonal, and diagonal. But when I look at this project, I see that there are some big open gaps. And that's going to make your coloring a little more difficult. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to make that look really, really nice. And it really does just seem a little boring. So you might want to think about what you can do in large open areas to continue design to make it look more interesting as you continue to work on it. Here's yet another design. Notice, this design is not symmetrical at all. This design, however, is a repeated pattern. Notice that if I take this square, it is just rotated 90 degrees. This does not work for your project. We want to see symmetry. Your design might look really cool, but we're looking for symmetry. If I fold this in half, it is not symmetrical in any direction. So we want to have those 4. So this is that repeated pattern. We're just repeating this square and turning it. We don't want that. So here's an example that we can look at. I folded it so that we can look. You can see that if I fold it in half this way, it's the same. If I fold it in half this way, it's the same. Also, if I fold it in half diagonally, it's the same in either direction. So notice that this would be an appropriate example of a design that has 4 lines of symmetry. Here's another example. This one's just a little bit larger. This one is 7 inches by 7 inches. The other examples were 6 by 6. For your project, you can decide if you're going to do a 5 by, or not a 5 by 5, don't do a 5 by 5. If you're going to do a 6 by 6, which is this size, if you're going to do a 7 by 7, which is this size, or if you're going to do an 8 by 8, which is this size from this one. Those would be the three sizes to choose from. Any larger than that, and the paper is going to have to be a special paper of a special size. But these you can all do with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So you get to decide. The 6 by 6 is by far the easiest with math. It will go by a little quicker. The 7 by 7 is the most difficult with math because half of 7 is not easily split, so it's 3.5 and then 3.5 inches. So as you start to split things, you start to have to do more math. And the 8 by 8 is also fairly easy because half of 8 is 4, which you'll need to know as well. So as you continue these designs, you can see that they're really just kind of interesting, geometric. You can kind of use some rounded lines. These almost look really rounded, but they're not. I've just used very straight lines, and then the way that I did it, it has become very almost rounded. Okay. So there's a lot of different examples of types of geometric patterns that you can create when making this project. Okay.